Raveena Tandon is a self-confessed wildlife enthusiast. Earlier this year, she was appointed Maharashtra's Wildlife Goodwill Ambassador. She loves safaris, she loves wildlife photography, and she loves the wilderness. But did that love get the better of her in this instance? Take a look at this video that was shot last week at the Satpura Tiger Reserve in Madhya Pradesh. She has posted this video on her Instagram account. Tandon and her group encountered a lone tigress on their safari, this particular one. From these pictures, it looks like the big cat was just a few feet away. You can hear the actor's camera clicking away non-stop. You can also hear the tigress growl at the touring party. So when this video went viral, questions began to be asked. Why was Tandon and company so close to the tigress? And were they blocking the animal's movement through the reserve? Did she break any rules? To ascertain the facts, officials at the reserve have launched an investigation. They plan to question Tandon's driver and her guide. We will tell you what the rule book says about such cases, but before that, let's look at what the government officials are saying right now.
हमको जो वीडियो हमारे संज्ञान में आया है उसमें ये ऐसा लगता है जैसे वो गाड़ी वीडियो में दिख रही है उसमें वो जो नेचुरल मूवमेंट एक एनिमल का होता है वो ऑब्स्ट्रक्ट हुआ है और उसमें फिर वो एनिमल ने अपना डिस्प्लेजर भी दिखाया है तो वो उसमें लेकिन किसकी गलती है ये कहना अभी प्रीमेच्योर होगा वो हमने जो क्षेत्र संचालक हैं सतपुड़ा टाइगर रिजर्व के उनसे हमने रिपोर्ट एक मांगी है कि इस पर्टिकुलर प्रकरण में हुआ क्या है.
Okay, we also spoke to a wildlife expert to understand if at all this episode may have affected the animal. He says that non-stop photography is almost like torture for tigers. We will show you the entire video as well, but first listen in to this gentleman.
इस पूरे केस में हमने ये देखा है कि गाइड और जो जिप्सी के ड्राइवर थे उन्होंने रवीना टंडन को रोका नहीं था कि आप उसके जो फोटोग्राफ्स ले रहे हो वीडियो बना रहे हो तो उसको लगातार आप जिस तरह से कर रहे थे वो एक तरह से टॉर्चर है, हैरेसमेंट है.
Now, was this really harassment? Because, all of us have gone to safaris, tiger safaris, and if you spot a tiger, you will obviously click a picture. How's that harassment? Raveena Tandon has defended her action on Twitter. She says no rules were broken. She was on the path that is marked for tourists, and the tigress named Katie came close to the group. So the group just stood where they were and let the tiger leave when it wanted to. Listen in to what she has written on Twitter. She says, and I quote, "Close encounters of all kinds are pretty regular and uploaded by all. God forbid if it happens to be a famous person in the vehicle. Guess whose fault it is then?" Question mark. So clearly the actor feels that she has been singled out as a soft target. The question is why? Our sources say it could have something to do with another video posted by Tandon last week. This one shows a group of people pelting stones and harassing tigers at the Van Vihar Park in Bhopal. That's the video on your screens. It was posted by Raveena Tandon on November 22nd. The actor called out the park officials who ended up ordering an investigation into the matter, but by then, the damage was done. Park officials were publicly embarrassed by Raveena Tandon's video. So could this be a case of tit for tat? Could the forest officials be settling scores with the actor? That's a question that I'll ask my guest this evening. But if that is the case, it's important to look at the rule book. According to the National Tiger Conservation Authority, safari vehicles must maintain a minimum distance of 500 meters between each other. This will ensure that the animal's natural movement is not affected, and goes without saying you must always be accompanied by a licensed guide on a permitted vehicle and on an approved road. You cannot leave the route in search of tigers. There are also limits on how many tourists are permitted inside the reserves. Only 20% of the core areas are actually open to tourists, and a maximum of 40 cars or jeeps are permitted per day. Keeping all of this in mind, let's go back to that video posted by Raveena Tandon. Is she accompanied by a guide? And we'll put that video out for you once again. Is she accompanied by a guide? Yes, she is. Is she on a permitted jeep? Yes, she is. And is she on the approved track? Again, yes, she is. So from the evidence we have, the actor does not seem to have flouted any rules. Several forest officials have actually come out in her support after this controversy erupted. This includes IFS officer Praveen Kaswan. He says the touring party did not disturb the tiger and it was minding its own business. So on the face of it, this could be a case of blowing things out of proportion. Having said that, it does reveal a larger problem with wildlife tourism in India. Let me show you a video that was posted by Surender Mehra, who is an Indian forest officer. It shows a bunch of tourists intruding into a tiger's natural habitat. If you see, you'll clearly spot how agitated this animal got. It literally fled from the spot. And that's the problem we have repeatedly seen with tourists. Yes, we understand they are eager to spot a big cat. Maybe they want to capture the moment on camera, nothing wrong with that. But always remember that you are the guest in this context. You are entering into the tiger's natural habitat. So obviously, you must respect that when it comes to tigers especially, because we are talking about an endangered animal. According to the World Wildlife Fund, there are around 4,500 tigers living in the wild. Out of this, almost 3,000 are living in India. They're spread across 52 tiger reserves in the country. Let me put those numbers in context for you as we put out more pictures of tigers on our screens. Over 100 years ago, there were more than 1 lakh tigers in the world. And now, just over 4,500. The population has fallen thanks to hunting, poaching, and habitat loss. If that trend continues, the tiger could be relegated to documentaries and photographs. To prevent that, the Indian government has a campaign called Project Tiger. It is one of the largest species conservation initiatives in the world. Thanks to that project, India's tiger population is reviving slowly and steadily. In fact, India's tiger reserves are amongst the best places to spot tigers in the wild. Places like Jim Corbett National Park, the Bandhavgarh National Park, and the Ranthambore National Park come to mind. Now, before I launch into the discussion and ask whether Raveena Tandon is being targeted or whether some rules were broken, just take a look for a moment at the video that is at the eye of the storm. Take a look.
Show your head. Namaste.
Okay, that's the king of the jungle. Doesn't seem to be getting offended by people clicking its pictures. Seems to me that Katie was actually enjoying it. Quickly being joined by my guest this evening, Ramachandra Srinivas is an author. He is a wildlife journalist as well. Naveen Raheja is a former member, Project Tiger Steering Committee. Ambika Shukla is trustee, People for Animals. And Ajay Suri is a wildlife expert. He's also a wildlife filmmaker. Naveen Raheja, let me start with you. You have seen the video. You've seen the complete video. It's a short video. Where were the rules broken in this?
Broken, as far as I've seen the video, there's no rule which has been broken. It is a natural, very, very natural thing when you go to a safari. Across India, you have to hire the registered gypsies only. You are provided a guide. At times, you may also not be provided a guide. It depends upon availability. But gypsy drivers are trained enough. And they have been repeatedly guided that they cannot break the rules. Here, in this case, I don't see any rule broken, If people will go to the jungle,
Okay.
She has not come out of the gypsy. She has not tried to tease the tiger. She has not tried to do anything which is, just taking photographs. Then what for otherwise a person goes to the forest? It's unfortunate that this, instead of promoting this as a wildlife tourism and creating love for tiger and animals, there are people, so-called wildlife experts, who are trying to just create a mess out of it because she's Raveena Tandon. This happens every day. Every
She's
forest,
Raveena Tandon.
where you come across tiger in a gypsy, everybody, takes photographs. What is wrong in it?
Okay, absolutely. There's nothing wrong in it. I mean, during wildlife safaris, we've been on the tourist path. A tiger has ventured near you. You thank your stars and you say, oh, good, this is my lucky day. I have spotted a tiger. You quickly take out your camera and you photograph the tiger. Honestly, there was nothing wrong in it. Ramachandra Srinivas, then what explains this halabaloo and the fact that the forest department in Madhya Pradesh and the ministry in Madhya Pradesh was very quick to say, let us initiate action to analyze this video and see if rules were broken, and we will question the guide and we will question the driver as well. Is this a case of a celebrity being targeted? Just because she's a celebrity, you target her. Social media में कुछ भी आ जाए, आपने कहा चलिए investigation launch कर देते हैं. Is this a case of that happening? Is there something else?
See, first and foremost, if you have actually followed Raveena Tandon on her social media, you've been seeing that she's actually gone to every forest. She's gone to multiple national parks and she's been shooting pictures. So obviously she's aware of the rules to begin with, one. The second part is that even a few days back, she has been raising questions about safety of animals in different habitats, be it zoos, be it national parks. And there are chances that she has also rubbed some people the wrong way by pointing out mistakes in what they have been doing, even when they are not really safeguarding the animals which are supposed to be protected. There was a recent video sometime back which you had, which you can see where there are some people who are shaking the cage of an animal, and Raveena protested against it, and that is one reason why a lot of feathers were also ruffled. So if you look at it from that perspective, that could be one reason why everybody wants to have a piece of Raveena Tandon. It's also a problem being a star, because the first and the foremost thing is that you end up being a soft target, and a star is always a soft target. But if you look at Raveena Tandon's record over the years when she's been shooting pictures, it exactly says that she is a wildlife lover. And finally, and the most important thing, look at the video. The gypsy is backing out. She's not standing there, not she's roaming around like a gypsy, like how other humans do when they try and go to these places. And most importantly, she's listening to the driver because the driver is backing out. Importantly, one must remember that when you're in a natural habitat, you don't reverse very quickly when you see a tiger or anything, because you have to go slow, and that is exactly what the driver is doing. So I don't see any rule being broken here. Studio.
You don't see any rule being broken here. So two people on this show, and they are neutral parties, don't feel any rules have been broken. Ambika Shukla, why the offense then? Why take offense just because Raveena Tandon has posted this out?
Well, I'd like to leave this incident aside and look at the broader picture. Wildlife sanctuaries are supposed to be just that, sanctuaries. They are not wildlife resorts. So it's not about who has gone here. It's not about Raveena Tandon. It's about our whole attitude towards wildlife. Why are we straying into their habitat at all? Why are we looking upon this as entertainment? When a wild animal loses his way into a city, what happens to him? He gets stoned, beaten, poisoned, shot. Yet we stray into their territory, not stray, we go deliberately into their territory, we intrude into their territory quite deliberately and with complete impunity. What happens when you go into a habitat? wildlife habitat. Roads are necessitated when you have these so-called safaris. What happens? They require roads. You build roads into into jungle. You then need hotels to stay in. So then you have buildings coming up. Then you need water, so you're using up water resources. Then you generate garbage, so you have garbage disposal. What happens to the animal's habitat? There is so little left of it. Why can't we leave even that bit of land alone for them? People who say they love wildlife, I have one piece of advice. The best thing you can do for them is leave them alone. Do not rush off to wildlife sanctuaries. Do not rush off to national parks. Treat those areas as no-go zones. We have taken over the rest of the world. There's just a little bit of territory left for wild animals. Leave them alone. They don't enjoy our company. They don't enjoy our intrusion. This is not an entertainment. There are so many other ways for you to entertain yourselves. You don't have to use animals to generate money for animals. For example, when we give for cancer, we don't expect cancer patients to do something for it. When we give for the blind, we don't expect the blind to earn it. Similarly, why are wild animals expected to earn money for their resorts to be maintained? They are valuable in themselves. They are an important part of our ecology. We need to respect them. We need to respect their habitat. We need to leave them alone. Respect their space. Don't go rushing off. Don't treat it as a holiday.
Ambika Shukla, I understand the point you're trying to make.
Don't treat it as entertainment.
But Ajay Suri, many people will argue that conservation and tourism have to go hand in hand. That tourists are good for tigers. That is where money is generated for conservation.
No.
Well, that's so true. That's so true, Shreya, because, you know, it's wildlife tourism. In fact, it's the tiger tourism which is giving sustenance to millions of people, you know, all over India, in all the resorts, you know, all the national parks and sanctuary. You see, you know, whether it's a gypsy driver or a hotel owner or a waiter of, but you know, in this particular case, I want to say something, Shreya, that if today, you know, a case is made out against Raveena Tandon for breaking the rule, then sadly this rule is being broken day in and day out in every national park and sanctuary of India, because I've seen it myself. I've been seeing it for the last 30 years that a mere sight of a tiger, you know, it causes so much enthusiasm and a rush of adrenaline among the people that everybody jostles with each other to come as near as tiger as possible. But you know, this is not the tourist's fault. If the regulation says that a gypsy has to maintain a distance of 20 meters, at least 20 meters, but this rule is seldom followed. You know, it's again, the onus is on the driver, onus is on the guide, the kind of orientation they get. You know, and in this particular case, I find that, and also one more thing I want to point out, this is about the specific personality of a tiger. In some cases, you know, a gypsy does come near a tiger, which again is breaking a rule. But in many cases I've seen, you know, particularly in Ranthambore and Bandhavgarh, where tigers have become so friendly to humans that they approach the gypsy. They come very near you. This phenomena is like very common in Ranthambore. There have been so many tigers in Ranthambore. There have been like Arrowhead, T16, Machli, you know, who have been known to approach the gypsy like a friend. And, you know, that tiger would just, brush your gypsy. You know, it will come as close. So what do? Are you breaking any rule? If your gypsy is standing in the center of a, you know, authorized road and the tiger comes near you, so what rule are you breaking? So I think something like this happened with Raveena Tandon also, because I also, you know, viewed this video a number of times. I don't think she digressed from a path or you know, she behaved in an abrupt manner, or she shouted, or you know, or the driver of the gypsy, you know, they indulged in any untoward action. Nothing of the sort happened. They were behaving like any other normal Indian tourist would on seeing a tiger. So I think much is made out, you know, in this case, and probably because she happens to be a celebrity, that she is being drawn with such a black paint.
Okay, I'll come back to you, Ambika Shukla, because when I asked the question that I did to Ajay Suri, you were shaking your head and saying no, not at all. But just to press on the point that Ajay has made right now, Rabachandra Srinivas, okay, I think we are trying to fix your video there, so we'll just do that in just a bit. Ambika, why were you shaking your head when I asked Ajay Suri that tourism and conservation has to go hand in hand? Money needs to be generated for conservation, and if it's responsible conservation, why not?
There's no such thing as responsible conservation in terms of tourism. Tourism is by itself an intrusion. You have cars going in, cars cause pollution. You have roads being built, which causes more pollution. There is no such thing, it's just window dressing when we call it responsible tourism. It's just the nice words. But the actual thing just means destruction of habitat. All of it, any human intrusion into wild territory is destruction. It necessitates destruction by definition. So you cannot have responsible tourism, and wild animals should not be treated as revenue generators for drivers and guides. We have plenty of avenues to learn about wildlife. There's Animal Planet. If you love wildlife, look at Animal Planet. People have done this before us. They've documented it for us. We don't have to redo it again. We don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to go and see a real tiger when it causes so much destruction. You can sit at home and have the same pleasure watching it on your screen with as much, it's as thrilling. So let's stop treating animals as toys, as entertainment, as revenue generators. Let's treat them with respect. They deserve to be saved. They deserve to be left alone. They deserve to live their lives the way nature has intended. They're not supposed to be props, amusement, any of that. And I think we need to reevaluate our attitude towards them. If we have more respect, if we stop being so human-centric and look upon animals as fellow inhabitants of the planet with their own needs, their own requirements, maybe we would treat this whole tourism thing. There are plenty of tourist resorts that don't require wild animals. Why don't we go there? There's so much for us to do. There are water sports, there are mountain sports, there are thousands of things we've invented and which we continue to invent. Why not leave animals
I get your point, but Naveen Raheja, as someone who was part of Project Tiger, what do you make of that view?
With due respect to Ambika, let me tell her, I have lived through a time when tiger in India was almost extinct. And the reason was because every forest is hundreds and hundreds of square kilometers. Fine, it is not possible to deploy guards or deploy systems which can keep an eye on the poachers. The tourism, ecotourism, and the practice of tourism which is going on now is responsible. And, largely I'll give it 100% marks that it has been able to bring back, tiger into the Indian forest. This kind of idealistic views are very good. They are very, very good. But let me tell you, it is the human beings, that the people who love the tigers, who love the forest, who go to the forest and they keep an eye. If one tiger goes missing from a particular area, next day there are 10 gypsies and hundreds of tourists who are talking about it. Since last 7 days, the tiger is not visible. So the people, forest department is forced into going around, tracking and looking. Yes, it is alive.
Okay.
It is that thing which has saved the tiger. And number two, let me tell you, that this tourism gives employment to the local people of the forest, around the forest, because it is the livelihood, their livelihood is dependent upon the forest and upon the tiger and upon the animals and conservation. It is only because of that our forests are saved today. It is not that if the way it was being criticized, we used to, several people have been criticizing this. And what was the net result? Net result was almost extinction, because then it becomes a free spot for the poachers. You cannot place guards and
Okay, so
government machinery everywhere.
okay.
You have to
so
have a
Naveen ji, what you're saying,
People have to
you have a
participate in
different view from
conservation.
Ambika. You're saying that tourists are required for conservation. I understand the point you're making, and you see if tourists don't go, then A, where will the money come from? And B, very importantly, the poachers will have a field day. I don't have too much time on this chat, but I again want to go back to the controversy which has sparked this conversation. And I'm so glad that we are having this conversation. But Ramachandra Srinivas, then what explains the alacrity of the Madhya Pradesh government and Forest Department to initiate this inquiry if everyone on this panel is saying and suggesting, and not just this panel, even wildlife officers who've spent 20, 25 years in the service seem to be suggesting that no rules were broken? Could this have something to do with the fact that Ms. Tandon had embarrassed the Forest Department when she had put out a picture and a video from, the park in Bhopal, from the Van Vihar in Bhopal, where you could see people who had come to see tigers actually throwing stones at them? Is this a tit for tat? Is this some sort of petty politics that is playing out?
It is because she's giving it.
Exactly. She's Raveena Tandon, one she's rubbed them the wrong way, and somebody wants to earn their stripes. Not pun unintended, but yeah, but they want to earn their stripes by pointing a finger at somebody, saying that look who's breaking the rules. She has not broken any rule. You see the video. She's right. She followed the rules, and if this is the rule that is supposed to be followed, she's followed the rules. Unless somebody like an Ambika has a different opinion and can enforce some other rule, till the time this rule stays, Raveena Tandon has not made any mistake, and somebody is definitely being rubbed the wrong way. That's what I'd like to say.
Ajay Suri, I have a minute on the show, so let me end by asking you this. As someone who's, of course, been to many, many tiger reserves, as a wildlife photographer, as a tiger enthusiast, you're telling me that rules are in place, but there are rules that are often broken. Not necessarily by Raveena Tandon, I think that has been established, but rules are broken. Is there a need to change rules? Because, many people are looking at the tiger there and saying this is too close for comfort. This could have ended up dangerously as well. Could it have ended up badly?
It could have, Shreya, but I've got a slightly different take on the matter. First of all, wildlife should not be taken as some kind of a sacred cow. And secondly, it's a misnomer. See, the point is, unless you send a youngster to a forest, unless he feels the air, sees the trees, and enjoys the wildlife, how the hell would you hope to inculcate love of wildlife and nature? Just like Ambika said, the tourist should be no in a park. I think people have to be, they should be motivated to go inside the park and feel the nature firsthand. I mean, there's no point seeing things on TV or National Geographic or other channel. You have to, you have to imbibe nature. And I think tiger is such an animal, the way it has adopted to Indian jungles. I don't think it's going to get scared if tourists just surround it. Of course, not too close, but I've seen in places like Corbett and Bandhavgarh, Kana, where tigers have more or less acclimatized themselves to human presence. It's good for the tigers. It's good for the humans. It's good for everybody. So I don't know why one should make a case that no, you should keep the tiger at bay and you should not. But tiger is not easily disturbed. I mean, after all, it's the king of the forest.
It is the king of the forest, and in this case, the queen of the forest was behaving like the queen of the forest and happily posing for the cameras. I didn't see it getting scared, trying to run away. It was fairly comfortable where it was on its territory, establishing who's the boss here. We'll leave it there. This has been an interesting chat. Ambika, thank you very much. Your views were important to hear, so thank you very much. Ramachandra Srinivas, Naveen Raheja, Ambika Shukla, and Ajay Suri. Appreciate you coming here, making time for Mirror Now to discuss something I think which is important to all of us. With that, I'm slipping into a quick break on the show.